Tenet is a new film to be written and directed by Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan, who's, I think, in my opinion, has changed cinema over the past 20 years with some of my favourite films, which I did talk about in my first Tenet review, but I'm going to talk about here anyway because I love them so much. So films like Prestige, The Dark Knight trilogy, you know, Inception, films that I genuinely think have changed cinema over the past 20 years. And actually, I was quite excited to see this film. Ultimately, I've seen this film twice now. But basically, before I talk about anything to do with the film, just to give warning now, I am going to go into spoilers. So if you haven't seen the film yet and you want to, please close the video down now. Please don't watch any further because I will be diving into spoilers. Not loads of spoilers, I must admit, but I will be diving into spoilers. So please, if you don't want to know anything and you haven't seen the film yet and you really want to see the film but you just haven't got around to seeing it yet, please do not watch the rest of this video because I will be giving away some huge plot points, especially plot points towards the end of the film, which are quite vital and quite important. So there's your warning. Spoilers are going to happen in this video. So here we go. Here I'm going to try and talk my best about the spoilers to do with Tenet. And it's going to be difficult, but I'm going to try my best. I'm not going to dive into all the big spoilers because some I still don't fully understand. I probably will do a third video on this film in the near distant future when the film comes out on DVD and I can probably analyse it fully and think, okay, now I understand this, now I understand that. But for now, I don't fully understand this film, but I understand it a lot more than I did the first time. And I am going to talk about some pretty big spoilers in this review, so that's your last warning, by the way, that's your last warning. Please, if you haven't seen the film, please do turn away now. I do recommend this film, even so, I do have my reservations about it now. I still do recommend this film, but my reservations about this film go into spoilers. Please, if you do want to watch the film, please do turn away now. This is your last warning. Okay, now let's talk about some spoilers. So I'm not going to explain the full plot, because I still don't fully understand the full plot of this film. But I understand certain plot points which I really want to talk about off the bat. Basically, one of the best plot points I've actually thought about the film was through Robert Pattinson's character, I think it's called Nick in the film, and John David Washington's character, the protagonist. That's his name in the film. I'm not referring to him as the protagonist, although for the majority of the film he is referred to him as the protagonist, but that's actually his name in the film, that's how it's credited. Basically, this whole thing with Robert Pattinson's character and John David Washington's character, Nick and the protagonist, basically, as we learn at the end of the film, Nick already knows the protagonist. He says something on the lines of, this is the end of a long good friendship for me, and then John David Washington's like, but for me it's the beginning. And then Robert Pattinson's character, Nick, even says, see you at the beginning. And then when you watch it a second time, you realise that in the opposite, in the beginning of the film, the person who saved John David Washington's character is Robert Pattinson's character, Nick. There's someone who saves John David Washington's character from dying in the opening scene of the film, and you realise that's Nick, isn't it? Oh, that's quite interesting to think. And also, the first time I watched this, I didn't get this whole storyline with Elizabeth Debicki's character. I don't think I fully do yet, so I'm not going to go into detail there. But there's this whole storyline with her that I didn't get fully the first time to do with this whole portrait. Like, I kind of understood the lines going on there, that they're trying to help Elizabeth Debicki's character, because Kenneth Branagh's character, he's in a bad relationship with Elizabeth Debicki's character. Basically, he has this portrait against her, and if he gives it away, he's going to ruin her career. It's something around those lines. That's what I got from the first viewing, but then on a second viewing, I realised, oh, it's much more deeper than that. They're using Elizabeth Debicki's character to get into the vote that Kenneth Branagh's character owns, so that they can go back and forward in time. And I realised that a lot more the second time, and they're using Elizabeth Debicki's character named Kat in the film to get to Kenneth Branagh's vote, because she is the connection to Kenneth Branagh's character, because, well, she's in a relationship with him. I understood that a lot more, and I did find a lot more enjoyment in some of the plot points in the second time around, because I realised that's why they're doing that. Oh, that's why. Oh, I get why they're doing that now. There were still some large plot points that I still didn't understand, but that's not a criticism in my opinion. I talked about this a bit in my first Tenet review, so I'm not going to talk about it much here. I like films like that. I like films which I don't fully understand, the first time especially, then the second time, films that I can watch over and over again, especially action films. Like nowadays, there's so many, Marvel action films, or even the late Star Wars films, which, I was a fan of. You get what I mean? There's so many action films nowadays where you can only really watch once, and then it kind of loses its playback quality, because you start to know, okay, that's a big problem, that's bit chunky. Whilst with Tenet, although it's not a perfectly made film, watching it more and more times, you understand more. It's like that whole thing with Inception. When I watched it a second time, I loved it even more than I watched it the first time. I loved Inception the first time. When I watched it a second time, I was like, yeah, this is a fantastic film. And I kind of do feel the same way about Tenet, although I don't love this film still. I still think it's good, and I still like quite a lot of the plot points of the film, especially at the end when you find out, you know, Robert Pattinson's character already knew John David Washington's character, and there's actually a scene where in the scene when they first meet in the film, Robert Pattinson's character, you know, orders a drink for him. On the first view, I was like, oh, he's a bit egotistical and a bit arrogant, ordering a drink for someone, and then I realised on the second time, no, he knows him. I was like, oh, little hints of that for the whole of the film, and I really liked that. Fortunately, though, watching on the second time, I did find some problems with it, and this goes into the character. Not to do with the performances at all. I think everyone's great in it. Everyone is giving off fantastic performances. Everyone's bringing on the A game because, well, it's a Christopher Nolan film, so everyone's bringing off the A game. So you have John David Washington, who is, I think, is a fantastic actor, who's giving off an absolutely amazing performance as the protagonist, which I'm going to talk about very, very shortly. Robert Pattinson's character, who is giving off an absolutely fantastic performance. I really like the chemistry that works between John David Washington's character and Robert Pattinson's character, you know, the way they play off each other. You know, there's even a bit of comedy thrown in them with each of the characters, like, you want to clash with playing, or how people play. And that part's a little traumatic. And it's just, that whole, you know, dynamic between the two characters works really well. Elizabeth Debicki is great in the film. She gives up a fantastic performance. I'm going to talk about a character in the gender representation. I'm not one of those people who really picked that out. I'm not really, you know, I'm not really one of those people who picked it out, but a lot of female critics have pointed stuff out that basically she has a very stereotypical role in the film. And I'm going to talk about it again very, very shortly in this video. But I also think everyone else is going to film, especially Kenneth Branagh, who speaks a lot like this for most of the film. And he is great in the film. And I talked about it before in my first review, but there's some scenes in the film where Kenneth Branagh's character is so evil, and he's shouting at Elizabeth Debicki's character so violently. And it's so fantastic to watch. I think Kenneth Branagh is just great in the film. He's the antagonist, c'est toi, and he's great in the film. Unfortunately, though, performances don't make a character. A character has that characterization. I think this film lacks that. I'm not saying there's no characterization in any of the characters, because, well, there is. With Robert Pattinson's character, you know, and Elizabeth Debicki's character, I didn't really feel an emotional attachment to their character. More specifically, John David Washington's character, who's actually called the protagonist of the film. However, a small part of me does actually like that it's called the protagonist in the film, because it sets him apart from all those other spy protagonists in other spy films, like, you know, Bond, that's James Bond, you know, it's things like, you know, Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise's character, Ethan Hunt. Again, it sets him apart from those two, because when you say, well, who's the protagonist of Tenet, what's the character's name called, you go with the protagonist, and then, you know, you might say someone never like, what's his actual name in the film? You know, that's his name in the film. They never actually full on call him the protagonist in the film. They refer to him as the protagonist a few times in the film. There's even moments in the film where Dimple Kapadia's character was just like, you're the protagonist of the situation, aren't you? And it's just a bit like, okay, yeah, they're referring to him as it, but they're not actually calling him. I think it's good, in a sense, because it adds that bit of difference to him. So, oh, he's called protagonist. I kind of like that. A lot of people have been criticising that, but when you think about it, it's not actually a terrible idea. I don't personally think it is anyway. However, that's not to say that I love his character simply because his name's called protagonist. I just think that's a bit of a clever thing. That's kind of like a play and a play and a play. Unfortunately, I didn't feel any emotional connection to his character. But I do want to say, I don't think John David Washington's performance is bad in the film. I just don't feel like emotional connection to the character. Final act of the film, I didn't feel that emotional punch that I wanted to. And that's also the same with Robert Pattinson's character. In the final part of the film, when John David Washington's character and Aaron Taylor Johnson's character are trying to get the bomb off, and then this is even the same with Robert Pattinson's character, when he comes in and he's, you know, risking his life to go and help them. I wanted to feel more of an emotional punch. And unfortunately, I didn't. It's not a bad last act of the film. In fact, I think the final act of the film is classic Nolan, if you will. But I just didn't feel an emotional punch, unlike Inception and The Dark Knight Rises, which, when you watch those end of those films, you really feel, oh wow, you know, not only is these fantastically executed films, and these are fantastic films, they have an emotional punch at the end. Unfortunately, I never felt that with Tenet. There was no emotional punch at the end, which made me think, I'm going to go back and rewatch that, and enjoy those characters whilst, you know, they're on screen, before they do this emotional punch. There was no moment like that, you know, no moment when I wanted to go back in the cinema and say, and go, I want to go and experience that emotional punch again. That never happened with this film. You know, I wish we kind of were thrown more into that, you know, relationship between John David Washington's character and Robert Pattinson's character. We just learned more about them, because then that emotion, because then there might have been an emotional punch at the end. That's what I'm trying to say. Also, the whole stuff with Elizabeth Debicki's character. A lot of female critics have been, you know, criticising her role in the film, saying, you know, she's got quite, you know, a stereotypical female role in the film. Well, here's what I have to say to that. Think about the role of the men in the film. How much we know about the men in the film, and how much we know about the women in the film. The women are reduced to stereotypical roles to a degree. I don't think that's the same with Dimple Kapadia's character, but to be fair, she's not in it that much. But if you take a look at Elizabeth Debicki's character, you know, yeah, okay, she's used to a stereotypical role, but can't the same just be said about the male characters? There's not really much going on in their characterization. In fact, there's actually more going on with Elizabeth Debicki's characterization, and I get it, she's stereotypical in this film, and she doesn't have much interesting characterization to her character. Can't the same be said about the male characters? Also in the film, I really do like Kenneth Branagh's character, although there were some small moments in the third act of the film I couldn't understand what he was saying, because I heard Ludwig Göransson's, score going in the background, of like, boom, 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 and Kenneth Branagh's character starts to get really, really quiet, and he's like, yo, you're gonna blow the button. It's just like, yeah. Not to say Ludwig Göransson's score is bad in the film, I think he did a good job imitating Hans Zimmer, but I think he did a good job. But I just couldn't hear some of the stages, the moments where Kenneth Branagh's character goes really quiet with his Russian accent, and I couldn't hear it in the third act of the film. But I know some people had problems with the audio in the film. That never bothered me on the second viewing. On the first viewing, weirdly enough, I watched it in IMAX, and there were more moments in the first viewing where I couldn't hear the dialogue than in the second viewing. On the second viewing, I heard the dialogue a lot better. Only apart from one scene, which was a sailing scene when I watched it the second time, and the scene which I just talked about Kenneth Branagh's character, that never really bothered me. I heard the dialogue through almost all this film. I watched it on a normal 2D screen, and the second time around, the dialogue wasn't a big issue. The audio wasn't a big issue. I could still hear most of the dialogue in this film. Going on to the sound, let's talk about Ludwig Göransson's score. I praised it on my first review of this film, and I think he did a superb job imitating Hans Zimmer's score. Now, Hans Zimmer couldn't score this film because he's scoring the new Dune film, which by the way I saw a trailer for in the cinema, and that looks epic and amazing. I can't wait to see that film. But anyway, going off topic there. Hans Zimmer couldn't score the film because he was scoring Dune. Okay, that's fine. You've got Ludwig Göransson in there, and I actually thought that he was going to bring a bit of Ludwig Göransson in there. So I'm a bit of a film music fan, because I already know that Ludwig Göransson, he won an Oscar for scoring Black Panther. Now it's got very distinctive themes. I'm not a huge fan of that film, but it's got very distinctive themes. And at the same time, he also scored music for The Mandalorian, and The Mandalorian has some amazing styles, in my opinion, absolutely amazing themes. But this does not feel like a Ludwig Göransson score. It feels like he's trying to imitate Hans Zimmer. It almost feels like Christopher Nolan sat down with him and just said, "Can you do your best as Zimmer?" And it's just a bit like, it works in the film, but it doesn't really have that touch. If you watch the end of Inception, you can hear the final piece of music, Time, in the background with Hans Zimmer, and it's just like, okay, now that Hans Zimmer score is shining. There's loads of other moments in Inception where that happens, but that didn't happen with Tenet. There was no moments in the film where apart from the plane scene where you really do hear Ludwig Göransson's score, come out a bit more. There's no moments was in this film, especially when I was like, it's fantastic in the scene, the Ludwig Göransson score. I must admit, I think he did a good job imitate Hans Zimmer, but I just don't think the score is that memorable, I must admit. But anyway, I do like a large part of this film. I haven't talked about loads of the exposure to do about the plane stuff, although I think that's an incredible cinematic spectacle. And that's the thing with this film. There's so many things in this film that are incredible to watch. So many incredible visuals. All the inversion stuff. There's even one stage in the third act of the film where half a building blows up from the bottom, and then half a building blows up from the top. And that's fantastic to see, on screen. There are a lot of reasons why, these visuals happen. It isn't just for the sake of Christopher Nolan wanted, this scene to go backwards and this scene to go forwards. It isn't that case. There are some good reasons for the film. They're trying to go back to stop Kenneth Branagh's character. And at the same time, though, there are loads of things in the film that it's hard to explain why they did some certain things in the film. They didn't tell us to almost the third act that Kenneth Branagh's character has cancer, and that he wants to, I understand his whole point to end the world. I get, that whole plot point. He wants to end the world because he's got cancer, and he doesn't want anyone to live in this world anymore. I get that. It's something around the line, but I get that. But the thing was, why didn't they tell us that to the third act? It was a bit like, going back to that whole cinematic spectacle. I think there's so many epic and fantastic action sequences in the film, which is so incredible to watch. And scenes which I don't think will ever be seen in cinema again. I don't think they have been seen in cinema yet, and I don't think they'll ever be seen in cinema again. And they're fantastic to watch. Christopher Nolan did yet again a superb job with the visuals of this film. I just didn't have that emotional connection with the second time. Not with the first time either. I struggled to have that emotional connection with it. The characters, even to the point that John David Washington's character, the protagonist, I just couldn't feel that emotional connection with the film that I wanted to feel. I don't think this is a bad film. In fact, I actually think it celebrates cinema. So many sea changes in the first 2 acts of the film that just change from location to different locations to all these incredible locations, and they look absolutely fantastic. The ideas are there, and the execution is, you know, really fantastic to watch. It got so convoluted in some stages that the complicated storylines kind of got a bit too much. I'm not saying it's a bad film in any way, because I've said this in my first Tenet review, and I'm going to say it again here. I like that this is a film that challenges its audience. I like that it's a film that I can go back and watch again, watch it a fourth time, understand more, watch it a fifth time, understand more, you know, so on and so on and so on. I like that it's a film like that when you go back on multiple viewings, you can understand more. At the same time, it's a hell of a convoluted and complicated film, which I wanted there to be an emotional punch. That's all I'm saying. I just wanted to feel that emotional connection with this film, and unfortunately I didn't have that. But I think the ideas are there, it just gets so convoluted at so many moments that it's kind of hard to find those ideas, and it's one of those films that you have to keep concentrated the entire time. But even then, when I did that with this film, there's so many moments when the characters say like it's such a vital thing, and if you miss it, you won't know what's going on for the next 10 minutes. But this time I did, but sometimes even then I was like, oh, can you not explain that? Okay, we jumped into the next scene now. Can you not slow down a bit and explain it a bit more? There's not a scene which really settles in, and I haven't really dived into many big spoilers, although I will do a video in the near distant future when I can fully sit down and analyze this film. Probably when the film comes out on DVD and really go, okay, now I understand that, now I understand that, now I understand that, yeah, and talk about this film in a lot more detail. But for now, I don't think this is a bad film. It's incredible to watch. You know, it's a proper Christopher Nolan film. It's complex. It's amazing visuals, amazing cinematography, fantastic performances. I think it's convoluted, but it works, and at the same time, a really, really fun ride to watch. And there's a lot of classic Christopher Nolan in there. Honestly, all classic Christopher Nolan in there. There's just no emotional punch. I wish they could sell into scenes a bit more. All in all, I know I haven't talked about Tenet in, you know, full-on spoiler detail, but I've talked about it the best I can. And ultimately, I'm going to give this film an 8.2 out of 10 for now. I believe we'll watch this film again, but not for a while. And when I do, I will do a much more deeper, in-depth dive to this film. It is a complicated film, but that doesn't bother me at the same time, because I can watch the film time and time again, and I like that. All in all, I like Tenet, and I tried to talk about it with spoiler details as best as I can. For now, I'm going to give this film an 8.2 out of 10 from me. Anyway guys, have you seen Tenet a second time? And if so, what do you think of it? Please do comment below and let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Please let me know what you think about it the second time. Maybe you liked it more, maybe you liked it less, or maybe you're like me and you still don't understand large parts of it, or maybe you understand it a lot more. Please do comment below, and if I misinterpreted any of the scenes or interpreted them wrong, please do comment below and let me know like what was really going on in that scene, and maybe, you know, open it up a bit for me. You know, please do comment below and let me know your thoughts on this film in the comment section below, especially if you've seen it a second time. I'd love to know your thoughts on this film if you have seen it a second time, especially. Anyway guys, thank you as always for watching, and if you haven't yet, please do click down below and like, subscribe on this video, and look forward to many more film reviews coming very, very soon on this channel. See you guys again soon, but bye for now. Bye!